on Memorial Day and POW Recognition Day and all this, we go down and appropriately cry and we rub our hands over the wall and we say, all these poor people. But they don't listen to that wall. When I go down to that wall, what I hear is I hear voices coming from that wall that says, what the hell am I doing here? Why am I dead? Who's responsible for it? Other voices saying, hey, I'm not dead. What the hell am I doing on this wall? That's what I hear when I go down there. But the rest of them hear this, oh, it's such a sad thing. Let's all mourn these heroes. Now, if we want to keep them heroes, we better not find any live ones. Because maybe they've assimilated and now are Russian citizens. Maybe they have lineage, children. Maybe they have engaged in activities which we would consider prejudicial to the interests of the United States. Then they wouldn't be heroes anymore, would they? We'd have to take their name off the wall, and we'd have all kinds of blank spots on the wall, and how do we explain that to the American people?
Until the end of the Cold War, there was no need to explain anything. The files were kept securely under lock and key. But then, Russian President Boris Yeltsin breaks the silence. His sensational revelations shock America.
There have been many rumors for years in the United States that American POWs from the Vietnam War were transferred from Vietnam to the Soviet Union. Do you know that to have been true? And if so, are any of those men still living?
Our archives have shown that this is true. Some of them were transferred to the former Soviet Union and were kept in labor camps. We don't have complete data and can only surmise that some of them may still be alive. That is why our investigations are continuing. Some of them may have ended up in psychiatric asylums.
So it is possible some of these men may still be alive and could be returned to the United States?
Yes, it is possible.
Can we be sure Yeltsin meant what he said?
Well, he repeated it throughout much of the day today in Washington, and because what he said was so explosive and unexpected, we actually had another translator take a look at the question that I had asked to make sure there was not a problem in translation, and he said there was not, that the references specifically to Vietnam were clear, they were there, and that's what the president responded to.
And in talking about it today, Yeltsin seems to be committed to following the investigation through.
That's what he says.
Very good, Stone.
The USA and Russia formed a joint commission to investigate, but in 10 years, it got nowhere. Maybe because at the same time, in 1993, US President Bill Clinton decides to open trade relations with Vietnam, 20 years after the war. It's a popular move. With Europe and Japan as the main competition, this is no time to rake over old issues. And oil has been discovered in Vietnam. There is just one last chance to find the missing pilots. Every US pilot in Vietnam was given a 4-figure number that only he knew and that was stored in the Pentagon. And there were a series of agreed symbols. A K meant, I'm on the run. If a pilot was shot down, he was told to scrape these signs into the ground so that they could be seen from the air and by satellites. The analysts searched for these symbols, and they found them as late as the 1990s. Senator Smith, co-chair of the Senate committee, wanted to trace a particular pilot.
We received information from a source. I had my own sources in the intelligence community. I had a few, and they didn't like it. They always tried to find out who they were so they could fire them, but they could never find out who they were. But I was told by a source of mine that there's an identifier number on a map, on a satellite imagery, post-73, that identified Peter Mathis. So I wanted to see it. So I raised hell to be honest about it, to get in to see this intelligence imagery because they don't show that to too many people, including U.S. senators.
Bob Smith didn't go alone. He took a photo analyst with him who had previously worked in the same department.
We pull out the imagery, and here is a map of this particular area, and there's a number there. I'll make it up, I'll just make one up, 2764. And it's written on the ground with assorted stones and sticks and grass and so forth. Very clear to me. Was it like crystal clear? No. Was it clear? Was it readable? Yes. I said there's a 2, there's a 7, there's a 6, there's a 4. So I didn't say a word. I just looked at it. I turned to the gentleman that I'd hired to come in as an independent to look at it, who worked for there. I said, what do you see? He said, 2, 7, 6, 4. So then I bring the other guy who's in there, who's one of the intelligence folks, and I said, well, doesn't that resolve it? Is that 2764 or not? He says, I don't see anything. I said, wait a minute, repeat that again. I don't see a thing. Well, the gentleman who had hired to come in as an independent consultant was astonished. He was arguing with him. He said, what? You don't see 2764 on that? Are you telling me you don't see that? He said, no, I don't see it at all. Don't see it.
These pictures have been enhanced. The real photos are still secret. These documents are from the 1980s and 90s. The Pentagon says they're irrelevant, tricks of nature, or the work of Vietnamese children. No one has explained how nature or Vietnamese children got hold of the codes of missing pilots. Officially, the Senate committee had the last word. Maybe a few Americans were left behind, and that's all. It's time to forget. But some people are still angry.
First and most obviously, the prisoners who were left behind have been cheated, badly, betrayed, I would say, betrayed. Not in a legal sense necessarily, but in a moral sense. They've been betrayed. The families of these people who are American citizens have been betrayed.
We didn't like the idea of saying, well, my government knew and covered up something that was so heartbreaking, and these parents, their precious loved ones are not coming home because somebody says, no, you're not coming home, we can't negotiate, we don't want to. You know, it's very unfair.